So, welcome back again to the next session. Now, before this session, we've looked at all kinds of different things, the setup, the hypnotic process. We looked, of course, the 4 key principles, the hypnotic context, the ABS formula, and so on. You had a little bit of a demonstration of everything we'll be doing here. Before we launch into the actual sessions themselves, though, there is something very important for you to do now, which is you've got to find volunteers. Where are you going to find them? Well, there's lots of different places you can go to, which are available to you right now, in fact, to find volunteers to start practicing with. And I want to show you some ideas with you to do that. The first thing that you're probably thinking about, that's what most people think about, is working with friends and family. Now, friends and family can be a very useful source for volunteers. Why? Because they're handy. You're hanging out with them all the time. They're there. If they are supportive of you, then it's a great audience to have because, you know, they'll come in and it's free bodies. You already have the relationship. There's comfort and trust there and so on. So moving on to the other stages can be very easy. Here's a problem with friends and family. Friends and family have grown up with you. They've known you since you were a little 4 or 5, sometimes 0-year-old child, and they've watched you grow up, and they have a certain expectation of you as a person. Which means if you want to jump out of that mold now into the mold of I'm a hypnotist, I do hypnosis, sometimes with certain people, friends and family, they don't like you jumping out of that mold. They don't like you becoming this unknown factor. They like knowing all about you. And at that point, they can resist the process because they're fighting who you are becoming because they'd rather know who you are now and keep you there because it's well defined. Now, I want to mention here that it's not an ill intent in any way at all. It's just how we are as people. We like to be able to predict how other people are going to be. You want to know that when you invite Auntie Mavis, she's going to turn up an hour late and she'll turn up an hour late each time. It may frustrate you, but the minute that same Auntie Mavis turns up an hour early to all events, you're going to get shocked and you're going to go, are you okay? Are you ill? Has something happened to you? Because you're no longer able to predict her behavior. And it's safe to be able to predict people's behavior. So if you start telling people I'm a hypnotist, and suddenly they'll go, oh, I don't know, maybe he's just got another crazy idea in his head, they may push back unconsciously to put you back in the box that they know about. It doesn't always happen, but you need to be aware of this. Why am I telling you this? Well, it's because, believe it or not, practicing with strangers or people you've only just met, new people, can often be easier than practicing with family members because whilst you have to work more on the rapport side, building more comfort and trust and so on, strangers, people you've only just met or who only know you up to a little, in a limited amount, those people have no boxes of you. They have no preconceptions about who you are. And so redefining yourself in their eyes is actually very straightforward to do. It's pretty easy to do. So, to sum this all up, yes, you can work with friends and family, expect some pushback. I will show you some frames on how to limit that kind of pushback with the people who are, shall we say, more scared or more worried by seeing you grow or change. And I strongly encourage you to go out there and meet strangers, meet new people, people who have no idea who or what you are yet. Because with those people, you get to be something more, something new, more of who you are becoming, especially as a hypnotist. So those are the 2 types of people that you can approach, strangers and family members. Now, I'm going to presume you already know where to find your family members and your friends. If you don't, well, you have a very strange family, so we'll kind of assume that's a given. With strangers, how do you find a stranger and invite them back to your home or wherever you do your hypnosis to start practicing with them? That's kind of a little strange, isn't it? There is a brand of hypnosis called street hypnosis. Of course, the title of our company is the same, where you go out and you meet complete strangers and you do hypnosis on the streets. Now, that's a tremendous form of hypnosis to use to get the ball rolling, to get yourself into doing hypnosis and really learning the ins and outs of hypnosis, because now you really have to master your environment, you've got to master the hypnotic context and all the rest of it. However, if you have any concerns or fear or anxiety about hypnosis, the streets is the last place you're going to be taking yourself to. And the reason I say this is, however uncomfortable you may have been in the past by doing hypnosis and so on, that discomfort the performance anxiety that comes with hypnosis is 10 times, 100 times worse live on the street with a complete random stranger. Their expectations is higher. Your success rate, or rather, if you present yourself properly, what you can achieve is out of this world. And because the stakes are so much higher, the pressure is so much higher, and also the fear can be so much higher, at least until you learn how to work with that environment and become more familiar with it. So, whilst I encourage everyone to do street hypnosis just for the experience of it, it's a great learning environment, I would not encourage you to use street hypnosis as your first learning point, because it's easy to have all kinds of social anxieties and other things come into the mix that increase the pressure on you and therefore the fear that you have. Am I saying don't do it? Not at all. If you want to do it, knock yourself out, have a blast, have a whale of a time. And if you find there's fear, anxiety, or that sense of pressure inside of you stopping you from doing it, then come back to the content of this course here, which will show you a much safer, a much easier way to start things. So, we've got family and friends as a category. We have strangers on the street as a category, but one that we're going to sideline for now because of the reasons we just talked about. There's one more category, or one more place that's really easy to find strangers, and one where you will find the perfect volunteers to make all this life easy for you. To find those people, simply get yourself a hobby. It's a lot of fun to do because you can go all kinds of different places to meet all kinds of new people. And when you're meeting these new people and they ask you, what do? You say, oh, I'm a hypnotist. By the way, I'm doing a little research program on how the mind operates. Would you like to take part? It's a little fascinating journey through your own brain. You will learn a lot about yourself. And of course, you'll help me with my little private study too. Now you've got the perfect frame. There is no results implied. You're not going to hypnotize them to be chickens. You never said that. What you are doing is you're helping them explore their own minds whilst they're helping you to do research. That's a tremendous frame or position to be coming from in terms of the relationship that that creates. We'll talk more about different frames you can present to people in the next session. For now, I just want to give you a sense of how meeting strangers in a point of contact, like a hobby, can be a wonderful source of meeting new people, meeting people you can actually practice with. So the next question is, where do you find these strangers? What kind of hobbies should you be doing? Well, technically speaking, any hobby is good enough. Whether you're going to a cooking school or cooking classes, or you're going to a martial arts dojo, or you decide to go running with people, they're all good enough because you're meeting people. And I think most people are intrinsically interested in the powers of the mind, whether they realize it at first or not. However, there are certain venues that will lend themselves to hypnosis much more. In other words, the people that come to these sort of things are much more curious by nature. That's what appeals to them in the first place. And I'd like to run you through some of these areas. The first thing you want to look at is basically any place where people pay attention to themselves more in terms of how they're growing as a person. So we're talking about things like health food stores. Health food stores are a wonderful place because people who go there are more conscious about themselves, taking care of themselves physically, and there's a strong correlation between them and those people who are interested in developing themselves mentally. There's, in our society at least, a strong correlation. A lot of health food stores will also allow you to do little seminars or have events going on, and it's great to come to one of these things and invite people to take part in these experiments and experiences that we're discussing in this course. Another great place to find these sort of people are things like yoga classes. Why yoga? Well, yoga is more than an aerobics class. It's a lot more than just bending and stretching. There is that whole Indian philosophy in the background, the idea of mind-body expansion, connecting the mind and the body and growing as a person. So when you offer to them a chance to explore their own minds, well, it fits the yoga mindset perfectly. Similar to the whole yoga class is anything where the power of the mind becomes an important constituent. So for example, if you go to meditation classes or visualization classes, perfect environment once again. Why? Because people are already interested in developing their minds. They're already interested in focusing and meditating, all these things. In fact, hypnotizing a meditator can be one of the easiest things in the world because they have most of the things you need to do with them already in place. You just say to them, start doing it, and then listen as I carry on. It's a great way of stealing the trance and producing the kind of hypnotic effects that you're after. Other places that might be interesting might be a martial arts class. Why? Because most martial arts classes, or at least the more traditional ones, have that strong psychological frame or a spiritual frame that come with it. You're not just exercising hard to learn how to kick people and punch people and win fights. There is that style of school too. But a lot of the more traditional schools are about developing yourself as a person, about meditating, about calming your mind and staying in that central focused place. So the mind is an important element in the development of your skill. Hence, you offer to develop their minds, they will be interested once again. So I hope you're getting the sense here that there's lots of variety of places you can go to, whether it's yoga classes, meditation, martial arts. You can go to your gym, provided it's a social atmosphere. If you go to the kind of gym where people basically get in their treadmill, put their headphones on, and they never talk to anyone, it's not a great place to meet people. Unless you're the kind of person that meets people in places like this, in which case, go right ahead. You're looking for venues where people interact, and especially if they interact and their minds being used. So art classes, creative writing classes, poetry classes or poetry clubs. Of course, if your city or town has a hypnotic community, places where people go and practice hypnosis with each other, or an LP, or any other related discipline, join those groups. And in those groups, well, you'll be able to do this stuff anyways, and then invite them back to your home or wherever you choose to be doing your practice, and continue the practicing afterwards. Once again, great venues for it. So, to summarize everything, we have two types of people that you can work with. Friends and family is one category, and complete strangers is the other category. My preference is to work with complete strangers at first. Why? Because they have a different perception of you, and you can redefine yourself with them. Whereas friends and family, very useful, especially if you're shy and nervous because you already have the rapport going. Downside is you're going to have to set some more strong or more powerful frames with these people to bring them into your reality, to accept you as a hypnotist or an authority about the mind. Where do you find these people? Well, you know where to find your friends and family. Strangers, you can find them in the street. I don't recommend it because it's a lot more difficult to build the relationship, but it can be done. Or you simply have the pleasure of starting a new hobby, one that has a tangible relationship to the mind. So it's meditation classes, yoga classes, creative writing, poetry, you name it. Night school is a perfect place to find people like this. And once you start building these relationships, you chat about the stuff that you're doing and so on, and the people naturally ask you, what do you do? Well, actually, I'm a hypnotist. And they go, oh, really? Or don't look into my eyes. These are all classic, of course, responses people have. And once you've kind of laughed at the silly responses and so on, you can start producing some of the frames that we'll talk about in the next session and slowly reel them in, make them curious, make them think, ooh, I'd like to try some of this. And then when they come in, well, now, once we get to the actual process of the sessions, you've already seen how powerful that can be. You've already seen a demonstration of how something really simple can make someone light up and go, wow, I didn't even realize how much I could learn about myself by doing this. That is the perfect volunteer. So, join me on the next session, and I'll talk to you about the frames that you can use, the way you can present the offer to them to come back and practice with you in such a way that there's no pressure on you, and they get to be very excited about doing this work with you.